Imagine if you were able to hear colors, if you were able to taste sounds, if you could feel what other people around you feel. These are the symptoms of a rare mental disorder known as synesthesia. This is when someone perceives each sense with a mix of one of their other senses. For this video, we are going to focus on a specific type of synesthesia called mirror touch. This is when someone has a heightened state of empathy where you are quite literally putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Only 4% of the world's population has one form of synesthesia. Mirror touch synesthesia is even more rare, with only 1 to 2% of the world's population having this condition. Every single person has the capacity to feel what other people around them feel. An example of this is when someone gets punched in the face. A bystander will typically cringe upon the impact and feel sorry for what just happened. The people without this condition just have a smaller and less active part of the brain than people with this condition. The most well-known case of mirror touch synesthesia is found in the renowned neurologist Joe Salinas. Salinas has talked about in many interviews how this condition has affected his childhood. His heightened sense of empathy and compassion for his peers did not bode well for him fitting in. Salinas went on to achieve a bright future. He completed his undergraduate degree in biology and sociology at the University of Cornell. Then he attended medical school at Miami Miller University and then completed his residency at Massachusetts General Hospital. While Salinas always knew that there was something unique about him, during an interaction in his residency in the emergency room, he finally realized that he was different. A patient was brought in that was in severe cardiac arrest. Salinas was fully immersed in his bodily experience. He felt as though his chest was compressing just as the patient's was. He could only reflect the experience looking back as a feeling of eerie silence. In order to get through the rest of his residency intact, Salinas knew he had to develop coping mechanisms to deal with this type of situation. He has found that the best way to cope with this type of situation is to compartmentalize and focus on inanimate objects such as doorknobs or other things. While researchers still aren't exactly sure what causes mirror touch synesthesia, it appears that it's related to an increase in the activation of the mirror neuron system. Greater connectivity in parts of the brain tied to social perception and empathy are shown in people with this disorder. While there is greater connectivity in those parts of the brain, there is less connectivity in the parts of the brain responsible for making the distinction between ourselves and others. This is why people with mirror touch are likely to treat another person's body as if it were its own. Right now, there is no current cure for mirror touch synesthesia. As previously mentioned, there are several ways to help cope with this mental disorder. Salinas mentioned that he tends to compartmentalize and avoid making eye contact. This really helps him focus on the conversation without having a sensory component involved. Despite the obvious difficulties that this disorder brings about in the medical field, Salinas also struggles with some aspects of this disease in his personal life. In many interviews, Salinas talked about how romantic relationships were very difficult. His ex-husband Jordan often thought that Salinas was not paying attention to him when it was quite the opposite. Being around a romantic partner so much, you constantly reflect their physical and emotional sensations. Separating the two is very hard. Fortunately, Salinas talked about how he's learned from past relationships and he's learned how to detach from the other person's experiences and how to best be there to support them. While there are definitely negative attributes that Salinas has to deal with on a day-to-day basis, he tries to remain positive and focus on the things that sets him apart and makes him unique. To achieve a pick-me-up, Selena focuses on people having a good time, for example, a baby laughing or a couple hugging. Mirror touch also helped Selena set himself apart in the medical field. A reason that he went into medicine is to help share in the pain and suffering of others, to help the patient feel less alone. This also helps him be able to respond with compassion and kindness as he literally knows what they are going through. Salinas has even wrote a book to help compile all of the experiences that he has dealt with throughout his lifetime dealing with this mental disorder. Salinas hopes that this book can help other people with this same disease know that they are not alone. Salinas has come to the realization that having mirror touch makes him unique. He is quoted saying, "After years of observing and caring for patients, what may have once been distressing or confusing has since become a great motivation, in fact, a professional necessity." Salinas himself, along with a team of other neurobiological experts, continue to study the effects and onset of mirror touch synesthesia. They hope that one day that they can provide other synesthetes with not a cure, but a solution to the problems that they have in everyday life.